이거 주식을 사든지 집을 사지 않았으면은 내가 어떻게 돼 있을까. 그리고 똑같은 환경이었는데 친구 아빠는 빚을 내서 집을 산 거고 혹은 뭐 미국 주식을 산 거고 근데 우리 아빠나 우리 형은 안 산 거예요. 그러니까 부의 격차가 처음에는 거의 비슷했는데 한 10년 동안 한 10배 이상 차이 나버리는 그런 걸 본 거죠. 그러고 나서 작년에 이제 코로나19가 오는데 10년 전 상황하고 비슷한 상황이 된 거죠. 이번에는 내가 기회를 잡아야 되겠다. 이런 게 그냥 전 세계적으로 한꺼번에 온 것 같아요. 저희도 좀 놀랄 정도로 젊은 층으로 주식 열풍이잖아요. 나만 탈락할 수는 없다라는 그런 생각이 이제 반영이 됐다고 보는 거죠.
그래서 오늘 이 포모 증후군에 대해서 이야기도 좀 나눠보려고 어쨌든 이게 뭐 마케팅에서 시작이 된 용어니까 오늘 전 세계적으로 정말 마케팅과 브랜드 전략의 뭐 최고 권위자다라는 분을 모셨습니다. 바로 마틴 린드스트롬 씨입니다. 안녕하세요. Hi, Mr. Lindstrom.
안녕하세요.
Hi, good to see all of you guys.
지금 스위스의 이제 츄리히에 지금 계시고요.
어디 지금 하고 계신 데가 사무실인가요? 아니면 대기실인가요?
This is our studio. Yeah, I have a permanent studio because we do so much TV around the world. So this is very convenient just to jump down in your studio.
저하고 같으시군요.
사실 저희가 지금 그 포모 증후군에 대해서 이야기를 하고 있었어요. 린드스트롬 씨가 보시는 그 포모 증후군, 우리 사회의 이 포모 증후군은 어떤 것인지 특별한 시각이 좀 있으실 것 같은데 얘기 좀 해주시면 좋을 것 같아요.
Fear of missing out is really the idea of that we as people want to be part of a tribe. A tribe means that you have a sense of belonging. Remember, when you go way back in history of the human species, we were all about tribes. And if you're a member of a tribe, you would be powerful because you could fight against the enemy. And if not, then you would be weak and perhaps even die. So we have an inherent need to become member of a tribe. And that really links very well with the fear of missing out. Now, what we know today from neuroscience is that there's an area in our brain called the amygdala. And amygdala is the fear center in our brain. So it means that if we suddenly feel we're not excluded or included in a group, then we actually will start to feel a pain. And the pain is overriding anything else in our brain. That means we actually almost hardwired to behave along with the fear of missing out. And that's the reason why the marketing industry, sadly you could say, have been plugging into this.
우리가 모르고 있는 일상 속에 포모 마케팅 사례는 또 다른 게 뭐가 있을까요?
Well, I think there's a range of different things. First of all, FOMO is, of course, a tribe-related thing. But no, you also have fears related to, for example, not being able to afford living. And that means that you will fall out of society. That means money is another factor. It's a fear of you getting old, standing alone with no money, so you will die. That type of fear is very prominently used in the insurance and the banking industry. I think a very good example in the United States about 2 years ago, where when parents were caught in this huge scandal where they wanted to have the children become member of university and they had to pay extra money to get them in and behind the door, and it was very sort of illegal. That was another fear that parents were hit by because they're afraid of the kids would lose the future if they're not part of that school. So fear is part of every aspect of our life. And I would claim today around 50% of all communication in one way or another is plugging into fear.
근데 이게 예전부터 있었다고 그러잖아요. 근데 최근 들어서 이게 마케팅적으로나 사회 현상적으로나 굉장히 많이 대두되는 게 결국은 우리가 이렇게 많이 연결되어 있기 때문에 훨씬 더
그렇죠.
이런 걸 자극적으로 받아들이는 것 같아요. SNS 같은 것들을 통해서, 그죠?
옛날에는 뭐 내가 얼마나 디스커넥트 돼 있는지 몰랐는데 어떻게 보면 이 사회는 너무 지나치게 커넥트를 강조하는 사회가 아닌가 싶어요. 커넥트가 안 돼 있으면 잘못돼 있다라는 생각을 갖게끔 하는 게 기저에 깔려 있는 것 같아요. 약간.
It's a very good point. 4 years ago, I was spending time with an author. His name is Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote a book called The Tipping Point. We were in Zambia and we talked about creativity. And I realized that my creativity levels has gone down because of FOMO. Because I was constantly networking, constantly online, and my attention span started to really go down. So I decided to skip my phone 4 years ago. So I do not have a phone, no phone. And it was remarkable because there was 3 things happening. The first thing that happened was that, you know, when you were standing in a bar, you're waiting for someone and the person is late, right? Well, what's the first thing you do? You grab your phone and you do anything with the phone so you don't look like a complete loser. Well, that is the fear of looking like a loser. And that was a very clear, prominent factor sort of directing me. The second thing was that you don't see details anymore because you always have a screen in front of your eyes, right? But the third thing was really surprising for me. I learned that I was never bored. And boredom is the foundation for creativity. So what has happened because of our network economy right now is that we are constantly connected and we never really have time to reflect and stop, pause and be creative. I had a phone because I was afraid of being excluded from the society, I'm sure. But also in the end of the day, it also killed a lot of other factors of the human strength. We love being connected, but it's not necessarily the best thing in the world.
마케팅이나 브랜드 전략가의 최고 권위자인데 핸드폰이 없다는 게 굉장히 놀라운데요. 지금 그 얘기 들으니까 놀라운 얘기인데 저는 사실 그 부분도 있다고 해요. 우리가 이제 SNS나 이런 걸 통해서 그 사람들이 뭘 하는지 볼 수가 있잖아요. 지금 뭐가 유행이고 뭘 지금 보고 있고 어디를 가고 있고 모든 사람들이 어떤 식으로 생각을 한다는 걸 볼 수 있는데 사람들이 사실 내가 좋아하고 내가 원하는 것보다 남들이 좋아하고 남들이 원하는 것에 훨씬 더 주파수를 기울여요.
그거에 신경 쓰면서 사실 SNS를
그렇죠.
하는 거잖아요.
거기에 대한 다른 사람들의 평,
그렇죠.
댓글 이런 것들이 훨씬 더 자극적이잖아요. 그러니까 저도 아침에 눈 딱 뜨면 딱 이렇게 보게 되더라고요.
댓글이 어떻게 평가가
댓글
왔는가.
어떻게 됐나, 뭐 조회수가 얼마나 왔나. 그러니까 훨씬 더 그 공포, 잘못됐을 경우 어떡하지? 이런 게 훨씬 더 고양되는 그런 시대에 살고 있는 것 같아요.
Well, that's true, but there's also another thing, if I may add, to that topic, and that's another area in the brain called the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens is what we define as the craving spot. It's where addiction is taking place. So if I'm addicted to gambling, to chocolates, or to the net, then actually that area will be activated. This is what's so interesting. Both the nucleus accumbens and the amygdala is on overdrive right now, so to speak. What we've seen is that the more you activate the nucleus accumbens, the more addicted you become to things.
제노포비아가 점점 커지는 것도 어쩌면은 지금 증폭되어 있는 어떤 두려움에서 뭔가 성냥불을 대는 것 같은 효과가 될 수도 있는 거겠네요. 그런 더 모발 위에 타는 것도 그렇겠네요.
I think the trend we're seeing right now is not necessarily healthy, and I do think what we will see happening soon is we'll have people going off the grid. So people like me would have decided not to have a phone. We will see a trend like this happening. And that would probably become very popular because people want to be part of the secret group which no one can connect with. That's the reason why Clubhouse became so popular so fast. And then what they did, I think it was the 31st of January, where Elon Musk, he jumped on it and he was on Clubhouse. And in fact, the number of subscribers jumped from 2 million to 5 million people in just one day, basically with the majority coming from Asia, by the way. But what was fascinating was he's never been back since, right? But people now are coming back because what if he comes by? So that's the fear of what if I miss out being and hanging around with Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey or Mark Zuckerberg, which all of them have been. So people have now seen a kind of an addiction to the whole thing. An addiction is what they call a crack house. So crack house is where you're so addicted to hang out on Clubhouse. So you can see how this is all interlinked in one big way where they are stuck into this grid and can't really get out of it, right?
근데 이 FOMO 얘기가 하도 많이 나오니까 사실 이제 그거에 반대되는 이제 JOMO라고 하죠. Joy of Missing Out. 예. 그러니까는 도태되거나 아니면 다른 사람 대세를 따르지 않는 그런 즐거움? 뭐 이런 것에 대한 예. 그게 이제 아마 주커버그의 여동생인 랜디 주커버그가 이야기를 했던 거니까 너무 재밌지 않아요? 오빠는 그 페이스북으로 막 퍼뜨리고 있는데 동생은 아 그거 하지 말고 그냥 조용히 사는 게 좋아 뭐 이런 식의 이야기를 설파를 하고 있는 게
I think 0.0001% have JOMO. I think it's a very low level. I love the term. It's a very cute term.
어려워요.
I think the reality is, frankly speaking, that most of us have FOMO because it's hardwired and you can't really go the opposite way. So I think if you're in a certain category, that's certainly the case. I also think there's another thing related to this, which is interesting. That a lot of people want to be stimulated by anticipation. In fact, recent studies done in Holland shows that people in an experiment were asked to plan their bicycle trip across Holland for 6 weeks compared to another group which were just told, you're going to Holland tomorrow. In fact, those which are planning the trip later on loved the trip much more. They're much more engaged and they remembered it much more later on. Those which are not planning, which have just got it straight away, it disappeared as quick from our brain as well. And I think one of the downsides we have in our society now is we have no anticipation. Anticipation is just as valuable as actually experiencing the thing, and we don't have that anymore. So I think the joy of missing out may actually be part of that we have anticipation and maybe I can try it another time, and then you look forward to it, then you dream. But we don't really dream anymore because we spoon-fed with material, so we don't have the time to create our own imagination. We're basically just following other people to deliver it for us.
지금 현재 전 세계에서 가장 유명한 마케팅 전문가가 되셨는데 어떻게 하셨습니까? 특별한 노하우가 있으셨나요?
I think first of all, I want to put this into perspective and say that brands which are really doing well are in tune with the consumers. They know and they feel what consumers are feeling. Increasingly, companies around the world are disconnecting themselves what the true consumer needs are. Companies are losing sight of what consumers want. During the crisis of COVID, what we realized is that right now consumers are completely changing their behavioral patterns. I call that an entry point. In the good old days, we had 7 entry points. An entry point is something so dramatic where you're changing your behavior. Like I'm moving away from home when I'm a kid. Suddenly I will buy new stuff, right? Well, we don't have 7 anymore. We now have 8 entry points. And the 8th entry point is what I call a global synchronized behavioral change happening because of COVID-19. What it means is we are buying stuff differently, we're interacting with people differently, and we also eat differently. It's crazy. People in the United States now eat food as they ate food in the 50s. They bake more at home, they use more money and more time of crafting things at home. So we can see now that the brands being bought today in 2021 are exactly the same brand as in 1952, which is crazy. We can see that the younger generation has gone into a time capsule. What it means is that they literally now are actually behaving as they were 60 years old.
여기 있는 분들도 그렇고 저도 그렇고 이제 인플루언서가 되고 싶어 하고 또 그중에 굉장히 그 좋은 통로로 쓰는 게 유튜브인데요. 그래서 사실은 이런 활동을 통해서 자기 스스로를 브랜드화하려는 노력들을 많이 하고 있는 것 같아요. 근데 그래서 이 네 분에게도 좀 1인 마케팅의 중요한 포인트 이런 걸 레슨을 좀 부탁드릴까요? 1인 마케팅의 중요한 포인트 이런 걸 레슨을 좀 부탁드릴까요?
The principles of building a personal brand are actually not that different from building a regular brand. The first thing is, what are the values you want to stand for? The second thing you need to have is the one word. So one of the exercises I typically do when I'm asked to brand a country or brand a city or brand a royal family is that we ask ourselves, what is the one word you want to own? Let me just pause here for a second. I'm going to say one word and you're going to guess what service or what brand this is, okay? It's not a country. Owning one word, and the one word is search.
Google.
Exactly. So Google owns one word, right? Is that because it's the best search engine in the world? No, it's not. In fact, studies are showing there's a lot of other search engines which are much better. But you wouldn't know, because if you want to find out, you'll go into Google, you type in who's the best search engine in the world. And guess what? Google is going to answer you, right? So what we're seeing is that you can actually own one word. And I don't need to tell you, there's one word which Korea, K, right? Country branding or city branding is all about being extraordinarily focused on one thing and be the best and the most prominent owner of that particular word. And then everything you do has to reflect that.
저 말씀 중에 우리가 최근 들어서 K에 너무 나열을 많이 해요. K-팝부터 시작했는데 뭐 K-드라마, K-컨텐츠, K-푸드 이건 그렇게 좋은 전략이 아니라는 거지. 그러니까 전 세계인들한테 정말 충분히 가긴 하면 나머지는 자동적으로 따라올 수 있는데 너무 처음부터 여러 개 하면 좋은 전략 아니라는 말씀이신 것 같아요.
아까 뭐 서치하면 구글 했던 것이 뭔가 의미가 있는 단어로 와야 될 것 같은데 K는 브랜드가 아직은 아닌 것 같다.
K-팝만 쭉 연상하면 뭐가 있거든요.
뭐가 있어? 어떤 게 있어? 어떤 캐릭터가?
뭔가 역동적이죠.
군무.
그리고 뭔가
칼군무.
뭐 그런 독특한 게 있단 말이에요. 근데 이거를 너무 빨리 상업화해서
다 K를 붙였어요.
다 붙이면
And that is very dangerous. And I think you're right about that. You need to find out what is this K standing for. And for me, it's also dynamic. It's youthfulness. It is cheeky. It has these modern values. It is network. It's social. It has all these different values. You have to nail down what it is. Because if you move into K food too quickly, you will water out your own term and you won't own it. Think about Apple. Apple in the old days had an iPhone, and then they had iPad, they had iTV, and now it's I don't know what. It's just I want it. But the reality is that they actually began with I first. They secured an ownership around the phone. They become very well known for being sleek design, easy to use, navigation, intuition, modern, trendy. And that was the core of the iPhone. And then when they went into iPad, they took all those values with them to the new extension of it. People almost blindfolded jumping onto the trend because they knew what the values were and what they would be getting without even having seen the product. The Apple brand did very cleverly was to create a sense of aspiration. And that aspiration was extended through the eye. So what you should do as a brand, as a Korean brand, is to say, your extension is now K. We need to build as much equity into that K-pop concept, and then we can expand it. And then you will have a free ride over time. But don't go out too fast. Don't spread the word too fast, because then it's going to die.